Good afternoon and welcome back to Fearmeitsbre. Today we're on episode 43 and my goal has been to get 2 episodes out a week, but as of late I have not been able to do that just because I kind of like on Monday or Sunday, I look at my week and I see my schedule and I'm like, whoa, I might be able to get one in on Tuesday. So it's the kind of thing where I'm obviously a wife and a mother before I am any of this. So I have a busy schedule. I have a very busy life. I record when my kids take naps. So for me, it's like if I can't get it in, I can't get it in. But my goal is to have 2 episodes a week. I have a goal of getting one out tomorrow as well at 6 p.m. But I also have 2 other things that I'm going to be recording with other people tomorrow. So I may or may not get that in there. But my goal is to have 2 episodes a week. And again, my schedule kind of hops around. So it might be random what days they fall on. I haven't been great at having like a set like every Monday. Lately it's been on Wednesdays. So that's just how it's worked out. Wednesdays and Thursdays. Next week it could be Tuesday. So we'll just see what my week looks like. Just keep looking for notifications. If you follow me on Twitter and Instagram at fearmeitsbre, which I may have already mentioned, you can find out then, because usually the morning or the day of, once I finish recording, I share that it's going to be on that night. But usually they end up coming out midweek to the end of the week, because those just end up, right now Wednesdays have for some reason been the best day for me to do it, with Thursdays as well, but tomorrow might get funky. So ideally there'll be 2 episodes out this week, tonight and tomorrow night, and if not, I'm gonna try and start doing my 2 episodes a week again next week. So I have some topics to jump into that are kind of fun, kind of wacky, I guess. The Sophie Turner, Joe Jonas divorce was super interesting to me, and her skewed vision of marriage, as I am a wife and a mother, and I am blown away that this is apparently the reason for their divorce, and it just makes me very sad for their daughter. I know they have at least 1 child. I can't remember if they have 2. I get her confused sometimes with that other Game of Thrones star. Even though they're not even the same gender, Kit Harington, who got married to his co-star Rose Leslie, and they have a child together. For some reason, Sophie Turner, and maybe it's because Sophie Turner and Rose Leslie both have red hair naturally, that it's like in my brain they're the same person, but they're not. They just happen to be in the same show. So my brain forgets which one of them has 2 kids, which one of them only has 1 kid. So I'm sure we'll get into that with her. We're also going to be talking about Congress apparently is going to put us through another government shutdown on September 30th at midnight if they can't get their crap together and start working together. And then we have Russian state TV letting us know that we will be nuked by them, and their apparently Russian TV personality propaganda is apparently the authority on that. So we're going to look at that as well. Again, you can follow me at fearmeitsbre on the platforms, and we will start with Sophie Turner. So this story kind of really, as a wife and a mother, interests me, as I literally just gave a spiel about, hey, I'm a wife and a mother first. So if I don't have any episodes coming out, or if it's like, oh, she only did 1 this week, that's why. And on the flip side, we have Sophie Turner, and my mouse has been very sensitive today. There we are. Wow, that face. Sophie Turner, age 27, feeling trapped in her marriage to Joe Jonas, and wants to relive her youth after marrying and having children young, friends say, as she's seen Downing shots, and I think that's like British currency, 650 cocktails in Birmingham days before singer Joe Jonas, age 34, filed for divorce. So that's her out partying hard. And can I pause this? I hate it when it just plays things, Sophie Turner felt trapped in her marriage to Joe Jonas and regretted missing out on her youthful, carefree years after tying the knot with him and having 2 children at a young age, a close friend has told Mail Online, as this is a Daily Mail article. Listen, first thing I'm going to say is I got married young and I had my children young. I got married at 19 years old, as I've said, right? My husband proposed to me on my 19th birthday, and we got married, I want to say 6 or 7 months later is when we planned the wedding for. So we got married at 19 still. We got pregnant with our first right away. I had my first when I was 20. By 21, I had almost a 1-year-old. By 22, I had a child. Is that when I got pregnant with my second? I don't know my timelines anymore, but needless to say, by 25, I have had 2 children and 6 years of marriage. So, you know, I got married young. I don't feel like I missed out on anything. I watched people go through party phases, never felt the need to. I watched people go through that, you know, college partying phase, and I was just kind of like, well, you have fun with that, but I'm a mom and I've got a little guy that I need to take care of, so I'll see you when you're sober. Not interested. My 21st birthday, my first drink was a sip of wine. And then I was like, nah, I don't really get the fuss, and didn't have anything for like a year after that. So it was just very like, I just never felt that call to like, oh, I need to live it up and I need to party while I'm young, because at a young age, my husband and I got married, and when we got married, we got pregnant right away. And then we were just, boom, hit with responsibility, because it was like, okay, we're not only responsible for ourselves now, we're responsible for this life we've created. So that having that child young, I know not everyone has that, whereas there's still people who have children and they seem to shirk their responsibility, and that child does not come first in their lives. That was not us. We took that responsibility very seriously, and neither of us feel like we have missed out on anything, because we weren't out partying till 2 a.m. at not 17, wow, at 20, 21. We weren't out, we didn't get to go underage drink. I just don't understand this mindset. It's that very, as Ellie Beth Stuckey puts it, you know, you're serving the goddess self. You're putting yourself before your family. You're putting yourself before this. You're putting yourself before that. That whole self-love, I need to feel good regardless of how it makes other people feel, is what I am getting from this whole situation. And not to say Joe Jonas didn't do anything wrong, because there may be things on his part too, but what I'm getting from Sophie Turner is a very selfish woman who regrets getting married and having kids because, I can't be a party girl anymore. I have to settle down and I have to do stuff. Not to say she's a bad mom, but she's not really showing that she is a good mom, if you get my meaning. Joe, 34, officially filed for divorce with wife Sophie, 27, after 4 years of marriage, with documents stating that their relationship is irretrievably broken. A friend of Sophie's, who did not want to be named, revealed that the couple started having problems last Christmas, and that she separated from him at the start of the summer, spending the ensuing months partying with school friends in the UK or holidaying with them in Europe. I also hate how Daily Mail's articles are formatted, because look at me scrolling and nothing's coming up. Oh, there it is. Like, I don't know why. Every other article I have on here, I'm going to pause that video of her like drinking with somebody. I don't really care. But look at like, just breaking away for a minute. See how Daily Mail is formatted so weirdly, but these other articles I have pulled up, it's like they look normal. I don't know what this is. I try and like change the like zoom in and stuff, and it's always just weird. But anyway, I digress. The actress looked in high spirits as she partied the night away at Arcade Bar Drop Shot Digbeth in Birmingham, where she'd been filming her upcoming ITV series Joan. It is believed to have been the wrap party for the series, which has seen Sophie working in Britain since May, and she let her hair down in style as she enjoyed cocktails and showcased her strength by punching a boxing game. There were scenes reminiscent of a famous clip of her drinking wine and dabbing after being spotted on the big screen at an ice hockey game. In an effort to save the marriage, Joe came to the UK with their 2 children over the summer and spent time in Warwickshire, where Sophie was brought up. But after failing to work through their differences, he returned to the US with their children, who had been living with him since the split. The friend revealed Sophie feels like she's only just waking up to what her life and reality really is. She became very famous at a young age, then married and had kids at a young age, and never really had the teenage years of sleeping around and just having carefree fun with friends. She feels like her life stalled after Game of Thrones, and so has her personal life. Since the kids came along, she's been feeling trapped. She's the only person in her tight friendship group who's married with 2 children. Okay. All right. You know what? I was that person who was the only person in my friend group who was married with children at one point, right? I have only recently found friends who are in the same stage of life as me. That did not bother me in the way that it made me feel like, well, I guess I need to go sleep around, and I guess I need to go sow my wild oats, even though I'm responsible for somebody more than just myself. No, it never gave me that feeling. It just gave me that longing to find people in the same stage of life as me, and eventually I did. I'm blown away by this. She is only just waking up to what her life and reality really is. She's a mother. She's a wife and a mother. She chose that path. You made your bed, sleep in it. She became very famous at a very young age, and then married and had kids at a young age. Okay, so did I. I mean, I'm not famous, but I had kids and got married at a young age. I made that choice. She never really had the teenage years of sleeping around and just having carefree fun with friends. Is that a bad thing? Just, oh, I never got to sleep around. Even though I'm with, I've been, me speaking as Sophie Turner, right? Oh, I've been with this man for 4 years, probably longer. They probably dated for a little bit first. Clearly, she's not happy in her sexual relationship with her husband if she feels like, darn it, I wish I could have slept around and gotten my heart broken and had these attachments to men that I wouldn't even be with now anyway. Who wants that? Why? It just doesn't make sense to me. Especially where it's like, when they got married, she was 23. He was 29. I don't think he was quite 30 yet. He was 29. And now she's 27 and he's 34. And she's like, oh no, I missed my fleeting youth because I was strapped to you with a baby on my hip. And Sophie Turner is kind of a feminist icon because she played Sansa Stark in Game of Thrones, who ends up being like that boss queen where she's just like, I'm in charge of everything, men get in line. And then she is also, which we have not watched yet because we just have zero interest in it, Jane Grey in the Dark Phoenix X-Men movie, where again, it's a very, from what I've read about the character, a very feminist, like, well, we got to save the men again. So she's kind of like that. Her characters that she is best known for are feminist icons. So it doesn't surprise me that within her own life, she has this like, well, I need to do X, Y, and Z to be happy. I'm not fulfilled being a wife and a mother. I need to go sleep with multiple guys. Like, that's apparently what she wants to do, according to her friend. We're gonna back over here. There's her partying with friends, I guess. Lots of alcohols. Oh, is she flipping the bird? I can't tell. I don't know. She looks drunk. That is her her and Joe Jonas, who she is a lot taller than, and that kind of did always bug me. Like, I wish I could like have this formatted better so you could really see it. But she's got a good few inches on that man. That's crazy. Is she in heels? She is in heels. But still, even without them, she's tall. She was tall as a teenager. So Sophie had a statement, I guess, on her Twitter or Instagram. Statement from the two of us. After 4 wonderful years of marriage, we have mutually decided to amicably end our marriage. There are many speculative narratives as to why, but truly this is a united decision, and we sincerely hope that everyone can respect our wishes for privacy for us and our children. That's nice. Your publicist has a way with words, I guess. That's her drinking wine at a sporting event and just, acting like, woo, woohoo. So, yeah. She added, Joe would like another kid. He's a real family man. But while Sophie's been in the UK, she's realized just how much she misses this country, and it was the final nail in the coffin for them. According to the friend, Sophie also felt increasingly pressured at being compared to glamorous Indian actress Priyanka Chopra, 41, who is married to Joe's younger brother Nick, 30, which led her to question the future of the marriage. Wait, is she like, oh no, I think my husband's going to have an affair with the other actress that his brother's married to? Is that like what's in her head or something? The friend revealed his brother's wife is a lot older and more mature, and the family compares Sophie to Priyanka, which has put her under a lot of stress. Sophie under a lot of stress. I can see how that would be obnoxious, where it's like, oh, look at her, look at what she's done with her life, look at you, you're a party girl, and it's like, stop, whatever. But to me, it's just like, well, if you want to stop being compared to somebody who's more mature than you, then why don't you mature up a little and act your age? Although I guess she is kind of acting her age. The modern 27-year-old woman is this. Modern 27-year-old woman is not married, doesn't have kids, and is in a party phase. So, yeah, I guess she is acting her age. Nick is younger than Joe, but is more settled. He and Priyanka are on the same page about their careers and family life. Joe and his family want him to be in a relationship like this, but Sophie feels that she's only 27. She's only 27, guys. She's still a child. She's still a child. And hasn't even really lived because she spent her good young years working. It wasn't an issue at first, but the age gap between Sophie and Joe has become a real problem. They want very different things. On Wednesday, Joe and Sophie confirmed they are set to divorce, releasing a joint statement where they said it was a united decision. In the statement posted on Sophie's Instagram, they said, "After 4 wonderful years of marriage, we've mutually agreed to amicably end our marriage." I just kind of read that to you. The actress revealed in an interview on the Graham Norton show in 2019 that she felt she missed out on British university life after opting to join Game of Thrones instead. She said, "I wish I'd had the university experience." And granted, that show took up, when did that start? 2010? And it just ended in 2019. So that was 10 years of her life. Probably more, because you had to film things and stuff. They didn't start it in 2010. They had to have started filming at least a year prior, if not more. So granted, that was a huge chunk of that woman's life. So it does make sense that she's like, I spent so much time on that set working for that show. I wish I could have had a normal upbringing where I just went to school and had fun. I can understand that. Because when you're that devoted to something and it takes over your life like that, it just makes sense that you might wonder what could have been if you'd had a normal childhood. But at the same time, you made that bed, you lay in it. You make the bed, you lie in it. That was your decision. You made that decision to sign those contracts. Granted, she was a child, so maybe it was parental influence. It may not have been her totally. It may have been her parents were like, "Oh, hey, this is a good role for you. You're going to be doing this for the next decade and you're going to be making bank." So granted, it's hard with that consenting child mind where it's okay, was she fully aware of what she was signing up for, or was it maybe her parents that were like, no, this is good for you, honey. This is going to get you other roles. You're going to grow from here. She may not have known totally what she was doing when she first got into Game of Thrones. And I mean, every show, they ran their first season not knowing, or even their pilot probably, not knowing if this was going to take off and this was actually going to be contractual decade. They might have thought, we'll try this and, we'll move on to something else if it doesn't work out. And then she ended up landing a decade's worth of work. So I can understand that. But she got married, right? She chose to get married and become a mother after her time on that show had ended. It wasn't it was I'm doing this and I'm doing this, I gotta go live my life. She chose to get married and have children after her time on that show was ended. So you can't blame that show for your marriage falling apart. You can't blame your time working before you got married to your husband for your marriage falling apart. That is on you. "I wish I could have gone out and drunk a lot and thrown up in the middle of a club without it being photographed." Okay, I can understand wishing that your life wasn't photographed, tabloided, and just all over the internet. But why do you want to go out, get drunk, and throw up in a club? Joe and Sophie's romance started in 2016 after he contacted her via Instagram direct message. Court documents obtained by Daily Mail reveal that Joe stated his marriage to Sophie is irrevocably broken, and lay out the former couple's plans to share custody of the 3-year-old daughter, Willa, and their 1-year-old daughter, whose name they have not yet revealed. The paperwork lists Willa by her initials WJ and hints at their other daughter's name, listing her as DJ. In the marriage dissolution petition, Jonas's lawyer states, "It is in the best interest of the minor children that the parties have shared parental responsibility." Joe respectfully requests in the documents that he and Sophie establish a parenting plan and a time-sharing schedule, with Willa and DJ's primary residence listed as Miami, Florida, where he and Sophie had been living. Interestingly, the documents state that both Willa and DJ have been living with their father in Miami and other locations throughout the United States, suggesting he has been traveling with the children during the Jonas Brothers' recent tour. Well, when your wife is out having drinks and getting laid, then yeah, you probably are the one who's responsible for the kids. It has been reported on Monday that Joe had been caring for the children pretty much all of the time over the past 3 months, with TMZ claiming that he and Sophie have been having serious problems for at least 6 months. What I am getting from this debacle is that she's a spoiled little girl who wants to sleep around, she wants to get drunk, and she says, darn, I got a 3-year-old and a 1-year-old. Whatever will I do? How can I go do that now? And it seems to be that the husband is the one that's, he's older, he's wiser, he's the one that's been picking up the slack and taking care of the kids. This is a really good argument for those red pill trad people to be like, look at that. Although I will say that I have been, I was being argued at on Twitter because I was talking about how, and I did not say that all women between the ages of 18 and 25 are like this, because I was not like this. But a majority of women in America who are single and between the ages of 18 and 25 are party girls. They are Sophie Turners. They want to cast this stuff aside so that they can go live it up and have fun. And I'm not saying every woman is like that. There are godly women out there who are young and who are saving themselves for marriage and who want to be a wife and a mother. And this is not even the forefront of their brains. However, as somebody who worked when my son was young, my husband and I decided I wanted to work for a little bit because we were like, hey, it would be nice to have an extra income. And it worked out that I was able to go in, he was home, so we never had to put our son in daycare or anything like that. So I did that for a brief time. And while I was doing that, I was 21, probably, working with girls who were 16 to 20. I think I might have been 22, actually. Wow. But anyway, I was working with that kind of age block because of the environment that I worked in. I was one of the old people there at 22, because the others were like 17 to 20 at most. And all I heard from them was party, 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 drink, drink, drink. I can't wait for Friday. Party, 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 drink, drink, drink. Guess who I slept with last week? Oh my gosh, you did? Yeah. And next week I'm sleeping with his best friend. Like, that's all the stuff that I kept hearing. And I kept hearing like they would try so hard to get a Friday night or like X night off because I really want to go to that party. Are you kidding me? And I was like, oh, I wanted that night off because, I'm a wife and I like my husband a lot and I wanted to spend that evening with him and my son. And they were like, oh, I was the boring one who wasn't out partying. They were the ones who wanted nights off so that they could go get drunk and throw up on a club floor, I guess. And I was the one that was like, I would have liked that night off because I got a family that wants to see me. And because I'm the responsible one, I'm stuck working your shift so you can go get drunk and sleep around. And it was just very frustrating to me, that mindset. And as someone who like worked with a gaggle of women who are like that, I have a hard time just with this kind of thing in general. And anyway, so I was argued at by these red pill trad, the secular red pill trad people, where I was like, okay. So you guys would take say you're 30 years old, you would rather wife a 21-year-old girl who has a high body count, has slept around with, let's just go 10 to 30 men, because apparently that's a low number according to them. And has no mindset of settling down, no mindset of marriage, is totally uninterested in it, wants to keep partying, wants to be a Sophie Turner. You would take that because she is young and fertile over a 30-year-old woman who has saved herself for her wedding night, has never done anything sexual, who has dedicated herself to God, who has dedicated herself to learning about being a wife and a mother, and is prepared and wants to have kids with you. You would take the 21-year-old Flusy, over the godly woman of character because she might have more eggs in her basket than the one who you're claiming is going to be dried up in 5 years. And a lot of them were like, yeah, I'd take the younger one. Well, then you're telling me what you want. You just want frivolous sex and not commitment and marriage. And what's funny about that is a lot of those people who were arguing that with me, being like, well, not all 21-year-old women or 23-year-old women are like that. You yourself said you got married young. Yeah, I'm an exception to a rule, right? I'm an exception to the rule right now in 2023. And they're all, well, not every woman is like that. You just said that. So I could fix her. I could wife her better than some woman that's not going to be able to have kids in 2 years. And it's like, okay, well, scientifically that's not true. There's women who are fertile up into their 40s and 50s even. But I digress. Now, these people who are arguing that with me are sharing this article and sharing this story and saying, well, that's what he gets for being almost 30 and marrying a 23-year-old. All that's on a 23-year-old girl's mind is partying and getting laid. And it's like, you're just arguing with me about how that is not. And that's the wife that you would prefer. So why are you saying serves Joe Jonas right for picking wrong? I agree with you to a degree. Yeah, it looks like he picked wrong because this probably didn't just happen. She probably, as it seems by this article, has maintained this lifestyle their entire marriage. So obviously things are going to escalate to the point where, okay, we got to do something different here because we've got these kids to think about and you're out there drinking and trying to hook up with men. So why are you suddenly, well, that's what you get, you reap what you sow, Joe Jonas, where it's like you were just defending women like that about a month ago. You can't have it both ways. Anyways, I'm going to jump back over to the article and we're going to try and finish it. I'm going to start there. They have very different lifestyles, a source told the publication. That is the problem here. You are supposed to be married. You are supposed to be one-track mind. You are supposed to both be on the same goal. You are both supposed to be on the same page. And if you are in a marriage and you have very different lifestyles where one of you is the traditional, I'm going to be a husband and a father, and I don't know his personal life. Maybe he's sleeping around too. I don't know. But from what it looks like, based off of the information that we have, one of them is the husband and father. He is taking care of the children. They're living with him predominantly. She's in another country. She's going to parties. She's drinking. She seems to be sleeping around. She's spending all this time with men who are not her husband. If you're in a marriage with those two diverging lifestyles, it is bound to fail. That's so sad for their kids. The couple's divorce documents do not share any further details about the reasons for their split. However, they do reveal both parties entered into a valid and enforceable prenuptial agreement on April 29th, 2019, days before they tied the knot in Las Vegas. Joe's lawyer did not include the prenup in the dissolution filing in order to protect privacy rights of both parties. However, the documents further suggest that he has no plans to request child support from Sophie, stating, both parties have the ability to provide for the support of the minor children, and they should both be required to contribute to the support of the minor children. So that is something that is very telling, where a lot of times you'll have like, nope, I want full custody, he's abusive. No, I want full custody, she's abusive. There's nothing bad about him in here. It sounds like he's, from the information we have, again, I don't know, he sounds like a fairly involved father who wants to be his kid's father. He wants to raise them. He wants to take care of them. She sounds like a selfish witch, where she's just like, I'm going to go do this. You take the kids. I'm going drinking. And I just want to go live it up. She is a child. Mentally, I'm not saying she's a child. Oh, it's justifiable. She's 27 years old. Sorry, my throat just decided to die. This woman is, what's a woman version of a man-child? She is the ultra-feminist, I don't want to have to take care of my kids and be saddled down to a man and babies, so I'm going to go live it up. She is an adult child. She needs to smarten up, stop being selfish, take care of her kids, and resume her role as a wife and mother. She doesn't have to be a traditional wife and mother necessarily if she wants to continue her career. But she needs to be responsible for somebody other than herself and put somebody other than herself, put somebody else first for once in her life, it seems. Although Joe and Sophie are fiercely private, they have both enjoyed very lucrative careers in the spotlight that have seen amass impressive fortunes, according to reports. The singer, who released his first album alongside his brothers in 2006, wow, has it really been that long? Has since debuted several #1 records, has an estimated net worth of $50 million, while Sophie, who starred as Sansa Stark in all 8 seasons of Game of Thrones, has an estimated fortune of $10 million. Excuse me. That's seltzer water, jeez. That's funny to me, that, like, even with her Game of Thrones, like, career, which you would think would have, like, made her bank, she's only, like, fiscally worth $10 million? He's worth $50 million? what is she doing? Why is she leaving? Like, why is she, I don't know. It sounds like he initiated the divorce because his wife is an immature floozy, right? And he seems like he's the grounded parent and the grounded spouse who just, wants to take care of his family. So maybe she didn't leave by choice. Maybe she was like, what do you mean you're divorcing me? And he was like, well, look at your lifestyle lately. Could be that, I guess. But that's just funny to me. There she is partying and dancing and Sophie Turnering. Yeah, okay. And there's Joe Jonas singing again. Who is... Oh, that's her filming. Wow. Okay. I didn't see that coming. That's what she looks like, I guess, in the show that she's been filming. The pair had been in different continents in the days leading up to the filing, with the actress in her native Britain and Joe in America on his Jonas Brothers tour. Sophie previously confessed she was homesick for the UK and wanted to move back for her mental health, but she couldn't convince Joe to leave the States. Aww. Wow, that's so sad. Give me a break. The pair, who reportedly have an ironclad prenup, share their 3-year-old daughter, Wyla, and 1-year-old daughter, whose name they've not yet revealed, who is listed as DJ in the divorce filing. Why do I feel like this just repeated itself? The couple recently sold their Miami mansion, which they purchased last year. The only unknown at the moment is the pair's custody and child support, which will be decided by the judge. And if that judge is smart and all the information we have is correct, I really hope that Joe gets custody over her. Because if she wasn't famous and she wasn't some A-list celebrity, is she an A-list? I don't know. She would be considered one of those single moms that's just out partying and clubbing while the kids are with the babysitter, or doing drugs while the kids are with the babysitter. She would not be having the status. She wouldn't have people defending her. People would be like, nope, the dad's clearly the stable one here and the children need to go to him. And I really hope that happens, as long as things are what they seem to be here. I hope for the kids' sake that they're with him and not with her. It's a really sad thing to say, but I mean, I hope that she gets to stay in their life and that she has some form of custody over them. But she does not seem, she has 2 daughters. She is not going to be a good influence in her life. She's an adult teenager. The amount of child support will be determined by the monthly salaries, and who's making more money. Well, obviously it's going to be Joe that's going to be paying in because he's got a higher net worth than her. That can also be renegotiated if one party begins to make more money in the future. Joe has been busy touring with his brothers and bandmates Nick, 30, and Kevin, 35. The Jonas Brothers kicked off on I don't really care about their tour. Joe is being represented by West Palm Beach-based attorney Thomas J. Sasser in the divorce, while Sophie's business manager, Carrie Malcolm, is listed as the main point of contact in the paperwork. Sasser is an in-demand attorney to the stars who were previously hired to handle Tiger Woods' high-profile divorce from Ellen Nordgren in 2010. The Swedish model received a $100 million settlement from the professional golfer. Sasser, a managing partner at Florida-based law firm, also represented NASCAR driver Jeff Gordon during his divorce in 2003. He was allegedly hired by Gisele Bündchen during her split from Tom Brady. Joe's what? That might be a typo. Joe's right here. Can you see that? Joe's with I think that should say Joe was pictured on August 11th not wearing his wedding ring. However, for a performance alongside his brothers in Austin, Texas, it was firmly back on his finger. Sophie and Joe, who first started dating in 2016 after being introduced by mutual friends. Okay, it says that he Instagram messaged her first. Which one is it? Daily Mail. Got engaged 1 year later, flaunting their pending nuptials on Instagram with similar captions of "I said yes" and "she said yes." Tying the knot 2 years after the engagement, 2 ceremonies. The first was a private, intimate affair in Vegas, with the second grander wedding in Paris. They appeared to be a perfectly happy couple. Sophie gushed about her husband in an interview with Fallon in 2022 and knew that he was the one almost immediately. When Jimmy asked Sophie when she knew she married Joe, she replied, "I mean, the first night I met him." Yeah, and that's just a look back on their relationship that I'm not really that interested in going through, so we're not going to do that. But anyway, all of that to say, that is a very sad situation. We can gripe on them all we want. We can gripe on the situation all we want, but there are 2 little girls now who are, maybe they never were in a stable home, but they're no longer in a home with a mom and a dad. The mother is clearly not a good influence on them, and we don't know what Joe Jonas is actually like, but if everything here checks out, it seems like he is going to be their bedrock. And it's probably going to be one of those things where when we're at dad's, we're, you know, grounded and disciplined, and we're going to grow up hating him. And when we're with mom, we can do whatever we want. And that is a very sad reality that Hollywood's greatest legacy is the broken families that it leaves in its wake. And you can't convince me otherwise. So we're going to move on from that because I went off on that. Wow. 40 minutes later, we're going to jump into Congress talking about its government shutdown that's probably going to be happening. And that is a much shorter article and a much shorter topic. So we should probably be able to breeze through that pretty quickly. So I'm going to transition the camera back over. There we are. And we're going to go into that one. And I'm lagging. Hey, so let me know if when you watch this, okay, so when you watch this on YouTube, is there a delay? Like, is my mouth moving and then you hear the words? Like, is there a delay? Because right now, I wish I could show everyone, like, there's a huge delay with my movements and my sound on my OBS for some reason. And I don't know why. And then when it uploads to YouTube, there's a huge delay, at least when I'm watching the premiere, because I'm in the chat. So normally when I air a premiere, even though it's not technically live, I am in the chat. If anyone's in there having like discussion or whatever, I'm in there chatting away with them. So that I can be as involved as possible with everyone. When you're watching it as the premiere, is there a delay? Because there always is for some reason. I'll play the video back on my screen. I'll check it out. Looks good. I'll upload it to YouTube, the best quality that I can figure out how to do. And then there's always a delay. And I can't understand how to fix that. And it drives me nuts. So do you see that too? Or is it for some reason just on my end? Anyway, I digress. We're going to hop back into the CNBC article about the government shutdown. Congress returns with the clock ticking to avert government shutdown, fund U.S. disaster response. Key points are the U.S. government will shut down at midnight on September 30th if Congress fails to pass spending legislation, because we need to spend more money. Of course we do. The White House and leadership of the House and Senate support a stopgap measure to keep the government running. Far-right Republicans, those darn Republicans, want to attach conditions that include a crackdown on undocumented immigration and a vote on an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Not necessarily bad things. The Federal Emergency Management is also running low on money as the agency responds to multiple national disasters. The White House has asked for separate funding to bolster FEMA's disaster relief fund. A deeply divided Congress returned Tuesday from a month-long summer vacation with the clock ticking to pass spending legislation to avoid a government shutdown and boost U.S. emergency response funding following multiple natural disasters. You know, these natural disasters, granted, some of them are like, oh, it's a hurricane, we can't really do much about that. But California wildfires, Maui wildfires were totally preventable in the sense that if you guys had better cleanup in your states, California, because of all their environmental crap that they have going on, they're not allowed to clean up brush in the woods. They have to just leave it. That is a tinderbox, okay? As somebody who grew up in the forestry industry, I can tell you that that's not going to end well in a dry climate when there's just dead brush everywhere. You have to cultivate the forest, or you're going to have this kind of stuff happen. It is so badly mismanaged that so much of this stuff, aside from freak hurricanes and lightning strikes and weird things, is preventable if you just took care of the land that God has given you. Anyway, the U.S. government will shut down at midnight on September 30th if Congress fails to pass spending legislation. While the Senate is back in session Tuesday, the House will not return to work until September 12th, leaving nearly 3 weeks to pass funding before the deadline. So 2 weeks to slow the spread of big government. Sweet! I'm fine with that. Sounds good to me. The White House on Thursday asked Congress to pass a single short-term measure called a continuing resolution to fund the federal government at current levels and avoid shutdowns while negotiations continue over a dozen long-term funding bills. What's in those bills, though? That is the question. What are the sneaky little caveats that go into the bills? Because nobody reads them. Nobody reads the full bill. The omnibus, whatever it was, spending bill. Nobody reads the full bill. There's reasons people were against it. The leaders of both chambers agree short-term measures are the best way to avoid government shutdowns. Senator Majority Leader Chuck Schumer said in August he and House Speaker Kevin McCarthy agreed that Congress should pass a continuing resolution to extend funding at existing levels for a few months. The continuing resolution is a stopgap measure that would set up for potential shutdowns and later date if Congress cannot in the interim pass the long-term spending bills. The Republican-led House of Representatives has only passed one of a dozen bills needed to fund the federal government through 2024. I mean, cutting government funding is never a bad idea, right? McCarthy came out publicly in support of a continuing resolution to keep the government running during an interview with Fox News last month. He sought to cajole the White House Republican... Why do I keep saying that? He sought to cajole House Republicans into supporting the measure with a warning that investigation into the Biden administration would grind to a halt if the government shuts down. If we shut down, all of government shuts it down, investigation and everything else. It hurts the American public, McCarthy told Fox News. So the Democrats probably want this to happen because they want to prevent the investigations into Biden from going through because it looks really bad. We're going to an election year, so we're going to have all kinds of malarkey, to use his words, going on. But far-right members of the House GOP are pushing back against McCarthy. The House Freedom Caucus is trying to tie government funding to legislation that would crack down on the undocumented immigration. Undocumented immigration is illegal immigration. I'm sorry, it is, okay? Right? What is it? The joke that they were, I think on Timcast they made, where they were like, what, if you're like a bank robber, you're an undocumented borrower or something, where it's like all of these like euphemisms they make up to call something what it's not. Just roundabout ways of being like, well, you know, it's not that big of a deal. They're just an undocumented person who, they're an illegal immigrant. There are ways of coming to this country legally, and if you break the law, you do the time, okay? Where'd I go? I'm lost. Sorry. Funding legislation that crack down on undocumented immigration, restart construction of the border wall, which needs to happen because, remember, the Biden had areas of the wall welded open so that people can just walk through. Again, malarkey. Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene told constituents during a town hall last Thursday she would not vote to fund the government unless the House voters to open an impeachment inquiry into President Joe Biden. Honestly, I don't think an impeachment really is the way right now. We only have 1 year left before the elections. Do we really want to get into that? As much as I don't like the guy, I don't want Kamala Harris to be president if he gets impeached and actually gets removed from office. Really, there's a year. Okay, can you just hold on for a year and just focus on building up the campaigns of the people that you want to run against him? I don't know. Put your efforts into that. Bank of America analyst in a note Tuesday put the chances of shutdown as a flip of the coin, given the conditions conservative Republicans are putting on funding legislation. If a shutdown does occur, it will have minimal impact on financial markets, UBS analysis said in a note Tuesday. Bank of America believes a shutdown is unlikely to last long if it does occur, given the potential political consequences for the GOP and added pressure to fund the government given devastating wildfires in Maui, Hawaii, and the destruction from Hurricane Idalia in Florida and the southeast last week. The battle over funding the U.S. government comes as the federal, FEMA is running low on money with hurricane season kicking up into higher gear this month. FEMA administrator said last week a shutdown would not affect operations that are addressing the imminent needs of the victims of Maui. So a shutdown won't affect that. That's interesting. Hurricane Idalia and other disasters in the near future. FEMA expects to use up to $3.4 billion left in its disaster relief fund. Maybe, again, you can't... Hurricanes aren't something that you can, control. But when it comes to wildfires and it comes to stuff like that, that is, for the most part, preventable if you are cultivating and taking care of God's green earth. You wouldn't have to spend so much on disaster relief to clean up your literal mess. But then, where are we? We need... the Biden administration has called on Congress to pass separate funding that includes a total of $16 billion to bolster the fund. We need this money done. We need the disaster relief requests met, and we need to do it in September. We can't wait, Biden told FEMA. The administration request to boost relief fund could also run into Republican opposition to the U.S. military aid for Ukraine. That's a key point there. The White House linked the disaster money to a request for more than $20 billion to back Kiev during its counteroffensive against the Russian invasion. That's, again, they want funding for a war that we shouldn't be in any way, shape, or form funding or a part of. Minimal funding for disaster relief in America. Minimal funding. We want to weld our border doors open and we want to minimally fund our own country. and we want to ship the taxpayers' dollars over there for something we should not even be involved in the first place. I see how it is. That's probably a big reason that the House Republicans are against this bill. Florida Senators Marco Rubio and Rick Scott have called for Congress to consider the disaster funding and Ukraine aid separately. So they're trying to lump Ukraine into disaster funding. So how much money would actually go to FEMA and how much money would go to Ukraine in the end, we probably won't know because they're lumped under the same thing. Scott vowed to introduce a bill to replenish FEMA's disaster fund with $12.5 billion and push for an immediate vote when the Senate returns from summer vacation. Scott accused the Biden administration of playing games by tying the FEMA funding to aid for Ukraine. Rubio told Fox News, no matter how anybody feels about Ukraine funding, those two things should never be one for the other. So, yeah, I think they're just trying to sneak in more funding for the Ukraine stuff, really, is what it comes down to. We're at 45 minutes. Should I go into the Russian stuff, or should I go into that tomorrow? It's a pretty short article. I could probably do it. Yeah, we'll do it. So yeah, Russia State TV threatens nuclear strike on US because, what is it, the Satan II missile has been activated, and supposedly that thing could level the UK in minutes. It's been activated, it's been primed for duty or whatever, but, you know, obviously nothing's been fired yet, or we would have known about it. Kremlin propagandists have issued the latest nuclear threat against the West regarding the war in Ukraine, warning the US could be in danger of a Russian missile attack. Igor Krotchenko, editor of the newspaper National Defense and regular guest on the Russia One channel, where guests have repeatedly called for strikes against Ukraine's allies, took exception to criticism of Russian conduct in the war. Russia is being warned and threatened that if we misbehave, or if, in NATO senior member logistics Ben Hodges' opinion, we exceed what he considers to be the necessary permissible lines for use of all types of Russian weapons, he threatens us with more than just strikes in the Crimean Bridge. Hodges has repeatedly called for Ukraine to be provided with all the weapons it needs to retake Crimea, which would allow long-range precision strikes on the peninsula in Moscow, annexed in 2014. Krotchenko said the Hodges believed the U.S. might consider strikes on the bases of Russia's Black Sea Fleet and troops in Crimea, as well as strike Russian naval bases in Tartus, Syria. Krotchenko believed these were not just statements of a retired hawk, but also concerted information campaign designed to influence both us and a Western audience. While the U.S. is the biggest provider of military aid to Ukraine, it has taken pains to avoid direct confrontation with Russia and has made no threats of attacking the targeted that Krotchenko referred to. Yeah, no, so the U.S. is literally just using the Ukrainians as pawn pieces because they don't want to fight Russia directly, but as long as somebody else does it, it's fine. But Krotchenko said there should be a discussion about what will determine the use and permissibility of tactical nuclear weapons and what goals and what tactics we will use. The most important message is we should send to the Americans is we will not wage war with you in Europe, he said in a clip posted to X, formerly Twitter. In response to your attacks on Russian military civilian facilities, the first strike will be a preventative limited strike against targets on the territory of the United States of America, he told the anchor of 60 Minutes, Yevgeny Popov. Last week, Russia announced that its Sarmat strategic missile system, which can reach the U.S., had been put on active combat duty. Attention, United States, wrote Grunchang. I hate these names. Next to the video, Russian propagandists threaten with nuclear strikes on U.S. territory. In response to Krotchenko's comments, Hodges told Newsweek the U.S. administration was finally realizing the likelihood of Russia using a nuclear weapon is extremely small. Russia has been threatening nuclear strikes since the beginning. I take them seriously because Russia has thousands of nuclear weapons and because they clearly don't care how many innocent people may die, he said. But I think they realize that their nukes are most effective when they don't use them. They see how we self-deter. Crimea is the decisive terrain of this war, said Hodges of the peninsula, which has been stepping up of attacks believed to be carried out by Kiev, including the Kerch Bridge that links the occupied territory with the Russian mainland. Once Ukraine liberates Crimea, it is over. Ukraine knows they cannot ever be safe or secure or rebuild their economy as long as Russia occupies Crimea. So I don't know, man. You know, hopefully we don't all get nuked, but at the same time, I have a feeling that nothing will come of this. I just don't see it escalating to that point. Because, you know, like Putin has said he will use nukes if X, Y, and Z happens. But I think everybody is holding the big stick right now and kind of using the speak softly and carry a big stick metaphor, where they're just like, oh, hold on there now. If you do something, we've got this button we'll push. I don't know how serious that is. It could be absolutely nothing and empty threats, or it could be, New York is going to get struck. Who knows? But it seems like the Democrats would prefer over a Trump presidency or a Vivek Ramaswamy presidency or even a DeSantis presidency. They would rather get us into a hot war with Russia, as Tucker Carlson has pointed out, apparently. It seems like they would rather us head in this direction than risk losing, their seat in the White House. And what looks better for a president than hey, we're in a time of war and it's time for me to step up and do what I need to do. And every president who has led this in any basic history book, almost every president who has been the leader in the time of war, history was written by the victors, has been praised because, look what it did to their legacy. They got us through this horrible time. FDR was not a very good president, in my opinion. He all but destroyed the gold standard for the time that he was in office. He temporarily took it down. He messed things up really bad, and yet he's praised because, he led us through World War II. Harry S. Truman, I wasn't necessarily that great either, but he led us through the finishing out of the war. Who else have we got? Just, there's a lot of presidents that really, probably weren't the greatest people in the world. And yet, their legacy was, we won the war that was going on when they were the president. So they're good people and look what they did for us. And it's just, I think every president to a degree has, except for George Washington, has had some ounce of psychopathy in that. I mean, even John Adams. John Adams is phenomenal. Was an amazing president, but he had some things that would not fly for me. Like where he wanted to jail certain journalists and newspaper people for, printing things about him. And that is in violation of is it the First Amendment? My brain just decided to poop out and die. But, there's just certain things. Every president has had things that have been like, okay, well, you had great this, great that. But right here, whoa, I'm really glad you were not able to do that. So, history is written by the victors. In America, we praise all these men who are just as flawed as you and I are, because they may have led us through a tumultuous time, but all of their methodology within that time may not have necessarily been the best thing in the world, or the most moral, or the most this. So, I don't know. I don't know if this is going to escalate or go anywhere, and I just, keep an eye on it. So, with that said, I'm going to end this now because we've been almost an hour, and I really went off about Sophie Turner, so I tried to, keep those two things, hey, let's still talk about them, but we'll keep it brief. I'm going to sign off of this, and I'm going to get this ready to upload, and watch for tomorrow. If I'm able to upload, it will be up around 6, and if it's not, probably by midday, I will tweet whether or not I am actually able to put out an episode tomorrow. So, hopefully everyone has a great rest of your day. Hopefully you had, or your evening at this point. Hopefully you had a great Labor Day weekend. We did some family stuff. We went to the fair, one of the local fairs around here. It was a lot of fun. We hung out with friends and family, and we're going into a more quiet weekend, which I'm kind of excited about because last weekend was busy. So it's nice to just rest. So I'll be back next week with at least one, ideally 2 episodes. Everyone have a great rest of your week if I'm not back tomorrow, and I will see everyone next time.